Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. We're here today with Brett Farmiloe. Well, we know you as the founder of Featured.com, also recently acquired HARO. So we're excited for you to spill the tea on that. But I did hear some more about your backstory, which I want you to start with. I heard about this cross-country trip where you were going around and you're asking about their purpose in life. So we just want to start there.
No, that's good. I think that the commonality between a lot of stuff that I get into is you gotta once you get into it, you gotta talk to a lot of people to figure it out. So when we acquired Haro, it's talking with all the different customers. When you're starting featured, it's talking with customers. When I was first coming out of school, I wasn't sure that auditing was the right career path for me. And so I decided to buy an RV and recruit a couple friends and travel across the country to interview people about their career paths, documented everything on a career education website for other college students to take a look at. And we went 38 states, 16,000 miles, interviewed 300 people, ranging from a fainting goat farmer in rural Tennessee to CEOs of well-known companies. And it really helped me find my way post-graduation. So really cool trip.
Was that like pre-podcast era too? That's old school interviewing.
This is all right. This is how much I'll date myself with this. So when we were going through the deep south, which we had no connections to, we're West Coast folks, Facebook came out with the status update, and it was amazing because we basically were like, hey, does anyone know anyone that we could stay with in Tennessee, and put out a status update the minute that Facebook, and then there was no status updates at that point. So we were able to get connected with someone's cousin and crash with them for a week in Nashville. So status updates, that's how far back this goes.
I love this. Bridget and I both were joking and we're like, I think Brett's our guy. We both have a big evolution of where we started to how we are today. And can you give us a little roadmap of how you got to featured? Because it is one of our favorite tools. It was very exciting that you reached out to us. We've been, I would say, an early adopter of the program.
That's awesome. So just a quick career rundown. So post RV, that career education website got acquired, went to go work for the acquiring company for a number of years, and then quit to launch a iPhone app company that failed very quickly in 6 months, and learned some lessons from that. Managed to meander into a marketing freelancer engagement with actor Hugh Jackman and helped him launch a charitable coffee company. So learned a lot about PR in that engagement. That was really cool to basically say, all right, Hugh's going to be on Rachel Ray today, and we're going to give away coffee bags to everyone in attendance. What's going to happen for e-commerce sales? How do we maximize that? How do we determine the value of being featured on Rachel Ray versus this new upstart TV show called The Chew, and which one's going to drive more sales? So that was really cool. That company ended up getting acquired by Keurig. Decided to start a marketing agency, and basically did it because I had about 6 clients after that I was operating as a freelance marketer, and got my website to rank on page one for the term digital marketing company. So when anyone anywhere in the world would Google that, they would come across my website and they would call me, and it's just me and my dog at the time, and they'd be like, tell me about your marketing company. And I was like, it's just me. So I just got sick of having that conversation, decided to start hiring folks and build an actual company, and then scaled that up to the point where sold it at the end of 2021 to focus full time on featured. And so featured was born out of the biggest problem that we had at our agency, which was how do you build visibility online for small business owners who have just an abundance of knowledge about equipment financing and credit repair and eyelash extension supplies and everything in between. How do you take that knowledge and put it to good use where there's holes from a publishing perspective? So that's the journey.
Very cool. And now it makes sense kind of how you started featured too, because I remember when we were using it initially, and Lydia just put out a video the other day, so everyone can look at that of our favorite PR platforms. And that was actually included in that. But it does make sense because when we started using the platform, we were like, this is very businessy. This is great for a business professional, a service professional. And it was a little bit different than some of the competitors in the space. So it makes sense that that was your background with marketing. And then you're like, oh, there's a disconnect here. And how did you even come to create an actual platform? So you have an agency, then you create software. You obviously needed developers. What did that look like?
COVID helped a lot. So basically what happened was it was June, right in the thick of COVID in 2020. And I went to University of Arizona and had a great relationship with the university down there. And they reached out to me saying that 25 students had their internships rescinded, and do you have any opportunities? And so I basically tapped my most technical friend and looked through every resume and made internship offers to two of the most software talented software developers there, actually three. And then they came on and developed the platform and then ended up sticking around and basically it gave us a good foundation to spin up a software or a SaaS business out of a service business.
And that's so cool. And I'm sure the college students really appreciated that. Speaking of, we've gone through the ringer just trying to look for interns. And I feel like a lot of the colleges gate kept or whatever to get to the kids. And so, anyway, I'm sure they very much appreciated that. Sounds like a really cool opportunity. So, in terms of, I guess the next step we'll take is how did you evolve Featured? I've been a long-term user at this point, so I've seen the evolution and the usability. And so tell us a little bit about the evolution because Bridget and I always joke around and we're like, what do we tell the quote unquote boring businesses or the businesses that really want to like rank higher on Google? They have some sort of very catered expertise, but then they see viral videos of X, Y, and Z, and they're like, well, I'm not a fit for that. I don't know how to get featured.
So just from a high level, what Featured is, we're connecting expert sources with publishers to create great content. And basically what you could do is you could go and see all these open queries and questions from journalists and publishers. You could find the ones that speak to your expertise. You could share your insights, and then those insights will get passed along to the publisher for publication consideration. So that's basically how it started. And again, the origin story is that you've got this expert eyelash online eyelash extension supply company. How do you get Vanessa's insights into articles? Well, you start to basically ask Vanessa questions about her business and then take those insights and then try to pitch them to, publications that might be writing about relevant stories. So that's how it initially started. It actually started as a company called Turkle. And I don't know if you guys are OG Turkle users, but there's a few of those out there. Turkle was in honor of Studs Terkel, oral historian and author, whose legacy was giving voice to the uncelebrated. And so we really wanted an approachable platform that allowed people to just show up as themselves with their expertise and knowledge and be able to share that in a good way. So since then, it's evolved. In July of 23, we acquired the domain name featured.com and rebranded. And then most recently, earlier this year, we had the opportunity to acquire Help Reporter Out and integrate that into Featured. So that's been a really cool evolution with HARO. Just real quick, I'm sure we could dive into it, but HARO is a 3 times a day email newsletter that just takes requests from journalists, puts them into a 3 times a day email newsletter, and then allows sources to get in touch with that journalist directly. And so one of the limitations, this is like the OG service. This was founded in 2008, and then we've acquired it and brought it back in 2025. Where I was going with this is that the gaps with HARO, incredibly effective, but it goes out 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. And there's sometimes gaps when we get a request from a journalist and when we feature it in a newsletter. And journalists are on deadline. They need sources as fast as they can get. And so what we've done and one way we've integrated the two is when a request gets approved on HARO, it'll go live on Featured immediately. And so all Featured users are able to get pre-access to everything that's a HARO query and then submit that insight so that that journalist gets sources as quickly as they can.
So smart. Both Bridget and I were like, we have so many questions for you. I've noticed a lot on Featured. It used to cater to more businessy or more quotes. And I've noticed over the past few months, product requests are on there and the outlets have really expanded. And so it makes total sense that you have both HARO and then anything on HARO is on Featured. I didn't know that they overlap, so that's really cool.
Yeah, we've actually even got a filter. If you go to our questions page, there's filters, and you could just filter by HARO queries exclusively. And one other thing that you asked about the evolution, one other thing that we learned was when we were speaking with PR firms is oftentimes we found that there was an intern that their whole responsibility was to monitor X, monitor LinkedIn, try to find different requests from journalists, and then to reply to them. And what we found is that these interns were spending the majority of their time doing the sourcing instead of the pitching. And every PR agency was like, look, if I could wave a magic wand, I would have them do pitching primarily and less monitoring. And so recently we came out with a new product called Opportunities that monitors all of those different platforms for new requests and centralizes all of them within Featured. Just really tried to reduce the time and get you connected to the right opportunity.
So smart. And I think that's where I found, or at least researched, because it must have been around 2021, 2022, when we were putting together a course for small business owners, teaching them how to do their own PR. So I was researching platforms that would help them. And that's where I found Turkle. And it must have been like that transition phase into Featured. So I have heard of that before, and I love that. And I think this is really smart because business owners are strapped for time, especially if they're going directly onto a site like Featured. They do not want to be sifting through all of this. And
The main thing that we find friction with. So you have true experts who are and true business owners that are super busy. Same thing with PR firms, and you can't do everything at once. And so the thing that we've found, and this is another product that we recently launched called Featured AI. Featured AI essentially forms a knowledge base and takes a look at your guidance settings and then uses that knowledge and think of things like answers that you've submitted, articles that you've written, anything FAQ stuff that you want to upload. You take that knowledge base, and now what Feature does is we'll identify relevant media opportunities based off of that knowledge base, and then draft suggested answers for you to review and then ultimately submit. So it's essentially like if you can imagine it just being put on third base, and then you're able to cross the finish line on your own. It's a huge time saver. For me personally, I was super guilty of this. I hadn't submitted an answer on Featured in probably 90 days. And then we came out with this in beta for our own team and was able to submit, I think, upwards of 20, 30 different pitches that I was able to submit, which is, it's been really cool. It's been a huge time saver for a lot of users.
That is so interesting and so cool. I have seen that feature on Featured and been a little apprehensive to try it. Have you received any pushback from writers? And it's such a weird space because we help business owners pitch themselves to the media. We'll write pitches. I have my own agency where I'm writing pitches for clients, and sometimes we'll use AI to help us with editing. And so it's such a weird space because it's become a big tool where everybody's using it. I'm sure writers are using it too, but it's also kind of taboo at the same time.
Yeah, so that's a very good point about the apprehension around using AI or having a feature that's like, oh, you're going to be able to detect relevant media opportunities and then draft a suggested response. The reason why it works on the expert source side of things is that you have a human in the loop. So this is not fully automated. It's drafting what you would typically say based off of previous information you submitted and giving you that to now review. And so we don't automate that process. And so the scenario, if you can imagine it, is you get an email saying, hey, you've got this opportunity. Here's your suggested draft. Click on make your edits and then submit. And so that's essentially what it looks like on the expert source side of things. And then for the publishers and for the journalists who are receiving this, we have an AI detection that displays what the score is of essentially, is this AI generated or not? And so if it's 100%, we've came out with new features for journalists and publishers that allow them to just hide the AI generated stuff. And so they, by their own opt-in, they never even see those responses. And then for stuff that has been edited and isn't fully AI, then we'll come in with a percentage score. And so you're going to see as a journalist a green score, a yellow score, a red score that's like, red is very high detection, so things of that nature. So depending on what you put in as an expert source, you're going to see that reflected in terms of the outcome.
it makes sense. My question is now about more so your thoughts on big publications versus small niche blogs. Because when I remember us first getting on Featured, there were a lot of like smaller, more independent blogs on there. I remember that it would have the domain ranking or authority actually listed next to it, which I love. I think that was a nice little touch. I'm curious for a business owner who might be listening to this, what do you think on either side of that?
Well, I think that what's happening in 2025 is that how and where people want to be featured is changing. And what we're hearing more and more is how do I get featured in LLMs? How do I raise the visibility in that? And so if you reverse engineer this and look at some where LLMs are getting their citations, it can be from niche blogs. If you're in credit repair and you've got a credit repair business, then there might be some niche credit repair blog that is ranking and being cited in these LLMs. And so from day one with Featured, we've always said, come all. If you're a publisher and you want content, we believe in self-selection on the expert source side of things. So we'll equip you with the different information to say, hey, domain authority wise, this is a 0. This is a brand new site, no authority by traditional means, but go ahead and submit it if you really want. So I think that's been really powerful. It's been welcoming for more publishers to be able to receive expert-led content. And then for increasing visibility online, which is really the job to be done for expert sources, I think that you're seeing that be reflected in LLMs, which we're starting to measure and starting to really support on that side, which is fun and interesting. And then ultimately, we're sending more emails saying that, hey, you've been featured.
So I'm going to blame Bridget on this one, but she loves new tech, which is how we found Featured to begin with, like she mentioned. And we love to try everything before we recommend it. So we're always going to beta test ourselves. And I remember when I was beta testing Featured for myself, even for my agency too, to make sure that it worked really well. I was featured in some websites. I believe they were Fast Company or Inc., which was very exciting, but it did say sponsored by Featured. So I've always been curious to understand if you have staff raters versus raters that come in. I know now you have HARO, and so there's a lot of freelancers that probably work with you and HARO. So I'm just curious on the back end there. I still love these features, but I do have
Yeah.
clients that were asking me questions. It's sponsored by, did you pay for this? And I'm like, no.
Well, just like you're beta testing, we're beta testing all the time on our side too. So with the sponsored content, that's something that we piloted specifically with 2 publications. We ran it for a while and we no longer do sponsored content. So we basically just found out more so there wasn't a great ROI for us. We wanted more higher quality brand names on Featured. So we said, hey, how do we do that? We could pay. All right, great. Now they're on there. We didn't see a big uptick in terms of subscriptions. And then we also heard the same exact thing of, hey, great that we got featured in this publication, but what's up with the sponsored thing? And so just caused more problems. So we don't do that anymore.
That makes total sense. Thank you.
I'm curious with HARO, will you continue it being the emails to the inbox? Do you ever see that being a platform, or do you love the old school emails to your inbox? Because I think there's something nice about just like getting it directly to you. Although sometimes I do tell people to have another email for all the requests that are coming in. There's an abundance. It's not a bad thing.
I think HARO works because it's an email platform. And if you learn from history and if you look at why HARO was ultimately discontinued and ended up in our ownership is because it was trying to transition to a platform and people didn't transition. So we have both. If you prefer the platform experience and you want early access to HARO queries, sign up for feature.com. And if you want the old school 3 times a day email, then helpreporter.com and put your email address, even if it's your secondary email address, and you could start to get those. And I think that, just going back to what we've learned in the first 6 months of owning and operating HARO, the reason why HARO works is because it's email based. It's because you've got this huge mass of subscribers. And oftentimes these subscribers are getting these emails, looking at all the different journalist queries, and they're being helpful. They're actually saying, I'm not a orthopedic surgeon, but I know one. And so I'm going to forward it to that person, and then it's going to get in the hands of the right source. Versus if you're a platform, much harder to get that opportunity forwarded to the right person. And there's friction in terms of, oh, that surgeon's got to sign up for a new platform and they might not want to do that. Versus, oh, cool, I'm just going to drop an email to that journalist at XYZ publication, and then that's it. So that's why HARO works.
This is the most true. So even for myself, I've been using HARO since the beginning of time, and I love to just like copy and paste queries, send them to friends. I know a lot of other PR agencies with clients, and then even with us, our clients or our past students in our programs, we'll send them sometimes a HARO that comes through, and we're like, this is so good. It's so niche, so specific to them. We're just going to send it to them and throw them a bone. So I love the email aspect. I hope it never changes, Brett. So
It's just on that point, I do the same thing. It's
yeah.
honestly one of the best ways to network for me because I'm like, oh man, hey, I thought of you. I saw this query and I thought of you, and I'm adding value to your day and not just checking in and saying, hey, let's hop on a call sometime and catch up. I saw this opportunity for you to go get featured in the press. Take it if you will. Otherwise, hello again. So it's a great way to network.
Absolutely. I love that you're looking at it as a networking tool because it totally is. And I think the best part about giving somebody some sort of value is like, I don't know, that's how you network really well. It's just like I'm helping you out, you help me out, and expecting nothing really in return, just helping people out, I think is a great way to make connections. So Bridget and I were talking before you came on, and not like doomsday, but just curious about your perspective on this. So, there are a lot of platforms right now. There's even for myself over the years, I've been in PR for over 10 years, and we used to just have our email list, and that was it. And we used to do research. Maybe we had Cision back in the day. Then Muckrack came in. There's a few other ones. But now we have so many different tools and platforms that help us with our work, which is really amazing and also kind of overwhelming at the same time. So, what do you see in terms of, I guess, the future of PR? This is a loaded question. I guess the future of PR and how all of these platforms kind of, I guess, play into that.
Well, I think that it's easier than ever to be able to create a new tool, a new platform, a new software service, especially now with AI being able, as a non-technical person, to be able to put something in production and get it out there. With that said, it's probably customer acquisition is going to be harder than ever, and so legacy brands that have built trust for their customers are going to be able to succeed. So I think that ultimately the market will dictate what succeeds and what doesn't. And if these tools don't make money, then they go away. They get consolidated. So I think that what we're probably seeing today is this emergence of new ideas, newfound technologies that's allowing it to do better. You're probably going to see a lot of those new tools get consolidated into existing companies, and or existing companies try to look at that success and try to mirror what those tools do. So ultimately, I think that market will settle into a few distinct tools. Customers will decide where they want to set up shop. And ultimately, in this space that we're talking about, where you're looking to get connected with relevant opportunities for yourself and for your clients, like I always tell PR people, you should be on every platform. If a competing platform to Featured or HARO has an opportunity that's not on Featured or HARO, that's like your job. You got to be able to detect that and to act on it. So I actually look at it as beneficial for PR people because it allows them to do their job better, but managing it all, maybe there's a tool for that.
It's interesting because we dance between both worlds, right? Lydia has an agency where she's representing clients and they're not pitching themselves. And then we also work with business owners who are pitching themselves. So these things were usually gate kept, right? Like no one had access to go directly to a writer. They didn't even know who to contact. So do you think that is the publicist and agency going to be taken out? Do you think there's always going to be a need? It's something Lydia and I talk about all the time because we are literally on both sides of the equation.
Well, when I was running my agency, one of my favorite realizations was that there's more marketing agencies than coffee shops in the United States. That's pretty wild. Uh, think that if it's easier to get some SEO than a latte, there's going to be some consolidations in the industry, especially as technology advances. That said, everyone knows why you're in business. Like you've got clients, you know that the value that you add to your clients is typically around saving time and doing things at an expert level to deliver better results than they could independently. And so I don't think that's going away. I think that time is always a scarcity, especially as a business owner. So if you're delivering a good service at a good value and you're saving your clients time, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
That was such a good, I want to clip that entire thing and just put it everywhere. That was great, Brett. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for reaching out. This has been such a special conversation. We love tools. And so being able to speak to you, just have this conversation is something that's really exciting for our audience members. So can you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, where everyone can find you, of course? Bridget, I think, said she's already connected with you on LinkedIn. I added you today, so expect that. And also the future of Featured and HARO and what you're seeing for the company.
Yeah, for sure. I think who's interested in getting featured can go to featured.com and sign up for a free account and start to monitor different opportunities that are on the platform and stay tuned for future developments there. We're always, like you said, beta testing and trying to push the boundaries and seeing how we can really fulfill this mission of connecting sources with publishers to create great content. So featured.com. You could also go to helpareporter.com and input your email address and start to get 3 times a day emails from journalists. And then, yeah, be on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brett. Have a great rest of your day. And everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast.